Middle East. Middle East. Here's the BBC headline
I have a plus
104.
one, Dan, if you want.
Yeah. 104, BBC 104. Here's the BBC headline 104. Trump says first phase of Gaza peace deal agreed, paving way for hostage and prisoner releases. There's still a lot of unknowns about, even in phase one, and certainly in phase two and beyond. But nary has heard a discouraging word. Even Hamas sort of said, yes, they're on board for the deal. And in the main, the remains of those who were killed in captivity will be released or died in captivity. And then the hostages will be released, and Israel will withdraw to some unknown line, and we'll see what else is involved. Here is Mike Huckabee talking about the deal on Fox and Friends early this morning. 108, please.
And it's really a remarkable day. And I'll tell you, there is a great sigh of relief being heaved throughout Israel today, because this is a day that everyone here has been praying to happen for 2 solid years.
And praying here too, Ambassador. As you know, Americans have been praying for this. What happens next? I understand Parliament has to meet. The deal has to actually be signed.
The cabinet will meet today with Prime Minister Netanyahu, who also deserves a lot of credit for his tenacity and patience through this. Once they meet, they will sign their portion of the document, and then things will start happening. The clock starts, and 72 hours is that time frame. We should be seeing hostages come out Sunday or Monday. Right now, it's going to be according to the president's plan, not dribbled out, but all of the hostages coming out. That's how it was presented to Hamas. The president made it very clear 2 things had to happen. Hamas had to deliver all the hostages, and then they would have to recognize they don't have a future in Gaza.
Okay. So we've talked here before about how Democrats have struggled to praise Donald Trump for the Abraham Accords, or as some call them, the Abraham Accords. And so now you're seeing in the press and amongst Democrats a challenge. I can't wait to see what Mr. Mamdani, for instance, says about the deal. Here is John Meacham, spokesman for the Democratic wing of the Gang of 500 on Morning Joe. Very gracious.
Yes, I should ask you, how historic is this?
Well, as ever, depends on how the chapter ends, but the beginning of the chapter is remarkable. And one of the things about honesty and citizenship and a sense of, I would say, maturity about what people in a democracy should do is, even if someone with whom you disagree about 99 things does the 100 really well, you should say so, because that's what intellectual honesty is. And so all credit to President Trump and his, as you say, unconventional team. But if it takes an unconventional team, that's fine, right?
Okay, again, hats off to John, because that's the right thing to do. We don't think the president's going to win the Nobel Peace Prize tomorrow. Again, guys, forward looking, what happens next? What happens next, Sean?
I mean, I think what happens next is, I mean, one, he flies over. But two, I mean, hopefully all this falls into sequence, right? That the hostages are released, that the Knesset approves it. I mean, I think what happens next is hopefully everything continues to fall in place and that there's no hiccups.
Dan, how do you think Mandami will react to this?
Well, I think it's interesting because it's not just Mandami, but also Jeffries and Schumer, right? New York City is home to a lot of Jews. Mark, you probably have the same thing. You can't often go in Central Park on the weekends without a peaceful march in support of release of the hostages occurring. It's been going on for 2 years. Every single weekend, the police protect them. They wave flags. I would imagine that Jeffries and Schumer should congratulate Trump and should applaud the release of the hostages, even if the rest of this deal falls apart, which in the history of that region, that happens. What Trump has accomplished right now, assuming this is executed, as you say, Sean, in the next 48 hours, is historic, and he deserves a ton of credit. I said this yesterday. He's the first U.S. president that I've seen gain leverage over Netanyahu. And he has the relationships with the Middle East. Some of it's business, some of it's whatever. But he was able to get all the players in and find leverage over all of them and squeeze them to get a deal. And
Yeah.
he deserves credit. He
Yeah.
really does.
And maybe this is saying the most obvious thing in the world, but sometimes when things like this happen, there's a lot of luck involved, and there's always some luck involved. But based on what we know about how this came together, this was skill.
Yeah.
This was planned skill, deploying Jared, deploying Witkoff, deploying
Bringing in
others.
Blair. I mean, like I
Yeah.
look at this
Yeah.
and I was like, whoa, where did Tony? I
Yeah.
didn't even know. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
I
and the other part of this
I'm
is,
sorry. I'm sorry. I just finished one. I apologize. It's also so difficult to appease and pressure
Yep.
and woo simultaneously Netanyahu, Saudi, the Gulf states, and Hamas,
Yep.
all at the same time. That's really hard. And again, it was done thoughtfully, Dan.
well, not only was it done thoughtfully, but as you say about luck, one of the things Trump has always done throughout his career is when something when there is an opportunity, he seizes it to get on offense. And it appears that when Israel bombed or seized or struck in Qatar, the Hamas people, Trump was so pissed off, and Netanyahu knew he had made a public relations error, that Trump jumped on it to squeeze him. And I think if there was a Democratic president, one of the things Netanyahu has been so skilled at is he's always trying to divide the Americans to gain maximum leverage and outcome for Israel. And for the first time, Netanyahu had one thing standing between him and potentially losing the American people, Trump. And so he couldn't go to Fox News. He couldn't go to the Wall Street Journal to try to weaken Trump's hand because they're in Trump's corner. So Trump took the hammer to Netanyahu, and he had nowhere to get out of it anymore. And it's the first time in 30 years I've ever seen Netanyahu be cornered.
Sean, I want to show you something that
credit.
Yeah, I want to show you something. This is sorry, my list is so long here. This is number 109. Aviva Compass tweeted this. I assume it's legit and not AI. This is a farmer in Giant Message in Israel. Sean, maybe the answer is just Donald Trump loves credit, but why is he going to Israel, would you say? What's his impulse to go?
can I?
Well, the visuals
So
are going to
gentlemen,
be
just go back
unbelievable.
real quick. Can I just touch on the Dem response? I'd love you guys to weigh in. I do think this is going to be massive. How they respond today, Schumer, Jeffries in particular,
Yep.
and so I just want, like, I think there's a big difference between we agree that the president deserves credit for this. I have a feeling that it's going to be more tepid, which is if the deal holds through, then
I
they
agree.
are going to take their foot off the pedal
agree.
and
I
try
agree.
to do this, which I think is a little weaselly.
Okay, why does
Okay,
does he want to go? I mean, is there a practical reason to go, or he just wants?
No,
he
I mean,
wants
look,
credit?
this is, but look, Trump, you've said it before. The guy's a master producer.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
he understands the imagery. You seize the moment, you go in, you do this. All the eyes of the world, not just the country, will be on President Trump when he goes and addresses the Knesset, when he meets with these hostages.
Yeah.
I've watched this guy in private moments when the cameras weren't on, and then when they were on. He knows how to to make a moment, and he will embrace these hostages and their families in a very moving way, and an authentic. I'm not trying to make it sound ungenuine, but
Yeah.
he will take this and he knows how to seize a moment, whereas other people would say next Tuesday fly them over, we'll have a ceremony in the Oval Office or the East Room. And so I think he understands you have to strike while the iron's hot, you have to capture the moment, and the eyes of the world will be on him.
You can compare it to East Palestine, if you'll pardon the reference of Palestine. He has a sense of being where the action is. He wants to be there. And I'll be so curious. We all talked about the Democrat reaction. I'll be so curious to see how quickly we move to phase 2. That's something I'm just so interested in. Are we talking about phase 2 in a month? In 3 days? I don't know. But there's a lot of phase 2 activity that needs to take place.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.